Hey everybody, welcome back to RV Miles. I'm Jason. I got a lot of great feedback on the video about cleaning RV toilets. So today I thought I'd do another cleaning video of an often misunderstood topic, cleaning your RV. This is our brand new 37 RV Miles fifth wheel. I'm not going to clean it here today, but it is ready for a good wash. But there's lots of confusion about what you should do when you wash an RV. Should you use automotive cleaners? Should you wax it? How do you get the bugs off? All that sort of stuff. And I'm going to go over that kind of thing today. This video is mostly going to be about an RV like this, one with a fiberglass shell and vinyl graphics. If you have an aluminum sided trailer, most of this will apply. If you have an automotive paint finish, well, you can just pay the $500 to have somebody else wash it because you can afford it. Just kidding. Most of this will apply as well, but you have a little bit more leeway because an automotive finish is obviously better than a finish like this. Why is that? Well, most RVs with a fiberglass shell like this one actually have multiple different types of surfaces. So this is a thin layer of fiberglass that is bonded to a substrate of often wood or a plastic-like substance. And it has what's called a gel coat over it, which is a fancy way of saying a protective layer that's clear, not quite like the clear coat on your car. And then on top of that, it has some vinyl graphics. These stickers are made of vinyl. And this solution, creating this white fiberglass wall with vinyl stickers, was a way to keep costs down. If you've ever priced a paint job on an RV, it's like a 10 grand upgrade. So this is a way to keep RVs a little bit more affordable because there's no paint, there's no coloring at all. If you see coloring on the outside of most of them, it comes in the way of some sort of vinyl graphics. So you've already got two surfaces. You've got this fiberglass with the clear coat over it, and then you've got vinyl, which is a petroleum product, and it's more porous and susceptible to the elements than the fiberglass and the gel coat is. But the fiberglass and the gel coat has its own issues. This can oxidize, they both can oxidize, but they can oxidize in different ways. But this fiberglass surface can start to oxidize pretty quickly. Within like 4 months, it can start to oxidize. And that means it's sort of wearing down the glossiness of it. And the vinyl graphics, because they're more porous and because they have sort of often kind of a memory built into them, they can shrink and expand, which causes them to delaminate, which causes them to crack, all sorts of different things that can be problems for the look of your RV. The vinyl graphics also come in a couple different types. There's the cheap kind, and then there's the more premium kind. They're manufactured in entirely different ways, and often you can tell by the thickness. Often you'll see the better vinyl graphics advertised as premium or automotive grade. Does it really matter? Well, the cheap stuff has an expected lifespan of 3 to 6 years. The premium stuff has an expected lifespan of like 4 to 7 years. The premium stuff is certainly better, and most brands do now use the premium stuff, but it isn't meant to last forever, right? When you wrap a car, you're wrapping it in vinyl. That's only supposed to be on there for 6 years or so before you pull it off. Otherwise, it's impossible to pull off. You're pulling it off in little bits and pieces. It can start to crack and disintegrate. And there are things that you can do to keep that vinyl lasting longer. One of those things, of course, is keeping it out of the sun. But the reason many of us own an RV is so we can take it out in the sun. But if you store your RV, at least in the shade, or better yet, a covered storage, you can put a cover on one. You buy a cover to put over it. That comes with its own problems. If you're in a windy area, the wind can make the cover vibrate against the sidewall of your RV, and that can sort of rub away some of the coatings, and it can wear down some of the vinyl. Those are things to be careful about. So if you do get a cover, you want a really nice fitting one, or you can go super premium and go into a garage storage. But the vast majority of us are storing our RVs outside, and we want to do the best that we can to take care of the graphics and of the sidewalls to make sure that it all looks good in the future. We retain the value as long as we can and all that sort of stuff. But you're not going to wash it just like you would wash a car. More in a moment, but first, this video is sponsored by eTrailer.com.
Spring is here, time to get your rigs ready for the travel season. This is the perfect time to complete those much-needed upgrades or repairs, and that's where eTrailer.com comes in. eTrailer.com's customer service and enthusiast teams are ready to help you find the best solution for your unique situation. eTrailers team is focused on putting their actual hands on everything they sell so they know exactly what it's like to use the product, providing you, the customer, with quality service and recommendations based on personal experience. If you're looking for a one-stop shop, eTrailer.com has you covered with a variety of RV items, including towing options, interior accessories, replacement parts, storage, and more. But it doesn't stop with RVs. eTrailer.com offers tons of automobile accessories, campground gear, and more. If you need it, chances are they've got it. Visit the link in the description and receive free shipping on orders over $99.
Let me present for you Exhibit A. So this is the manual, one-page manual for the graphics on my trailer. Not for all of the finishes, just for the graphics. This is actually from Burlington Graphic Systems, the vinyl company that makes these pieces of vinyl. So this demonstrates a problem right here with the RV industry, right? We know that manuals are terrible, but you should read them anyway. I say this over and over. Read your manuals, find them, read through them. This is a very simple one-sheeter. Unfortunately, what applies on here doesn't necessarily apply to the gel coat, but it does say some important things. And I'm going to go over some of those things, and they're going to be pretty much the same on any vinyl graphics that you have. So don't worry about it if you don't have this sheet of paper. First of all, yes, you can wash your fiberglass RV with vinyl graphics with typical automotive car wash detergents. There's no problem with doing that whatsoever. It's not going to be an issue. Just don't use anything that's got some sort of solvents in it or anything that's sort of abrasive, anything like that. What you really want to be careful about is, like, if you go to a car wash, which is what I do, that's where I wash my RV. We've got a car wash in town that's got a 17-foot bay door, and that's where I go in to wash it. What you want to be careful about when you wash your RV is not using the pre-soak cycle. That pre-soak has ammonia in it, and that's bad for your graphics. And then you want to be really careful with a pressure washer. Often it will say, and it does say in the manual here, to not use a pressure washer. Sometimes that's just not possible. If you're going to a car wash, it's a pressure washer. So what you want to do is stay away, stay well back, and resist the urge to take off any pieces of dirt or grime with the pressure washer itself. So yeah, I'll go to the car wash to wash it down, but when I'm at a campground that allows it, I will always wash my RV at a campground that allows it. A lot of campgrounds don't allow you to wash. A lot of them will charge you a water fee. You pay them $20 and then they allow you to wash your rig there. But the reason I do it at a campground is because I can get on a ladder and I can use a sponge and I can wash everything down. If that's not a solution for you, try not to use brushes unless they're very soft. Brushes can wear down the graphics. They can put little micro scratches in them, and then in the future, that's where you see them cracking and breaking, or where you see them oxidizing on that sort of stuff. If you do use a brush, just try to avoid the graphics when you use a brush. So I'll often use a sponge, or I'm a very big fan of these microfiber cloths. You know, they come in like 20 packs, 40 packs, 50 packs. You can get them at Walmart or any automotive store, but it's a very soft microfiber fabric that you can really use to get in on all the little edges, get your fingernail under there and get around the edges and get in every little detail and corner. And then you can just throw them in the washer. And if they're too gross or grimy, or you need to use one to clean up something that wasn't washing your RV and you don't want to use it again on that, you just throw them away because they're so cheap. I also like that they come in different colors. So you get a pack that's got gray ones, blue ones, and yellow ones. And then you can decide what you're going to use those different colors for. So you may only use the yellow ones for wax, and you may only use the blue ones for washing, and you may only use the gray ones for the dirtiest stuff that could get abrasive. And that way you keep everything separated and you don't have wax on your washing cloths and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan of those, but just avoid anything that's going to be abrasive. So a stiff bristle brush, a scouring pad, none of that stuff. You don't want to use any of that on either the gel coat or the vinyl. The issue with the power washer, first for the graphics, is it can get up under the edges of the graphics and it can start to peel them up. Even if it's just the tiniest little bit that you can't see, that can cause problems later on down the road. The other thing is that a power washer can be strong enough to remove the sealants that are along the edges all around your RV. Those sealants are very, very important, and a lot of people neglect them. When you wash your RV, it's a real good time to get up close and personal with those sealant beads and see if they are intact and touch them up. You do have to touch them up on a regular basis. There are people that get leaks after owning their RV for 2 years and they're like, this thing's only 2 years old, but they've never had the seals inspected. You can have a technician do it for you, or you can do it yourself, but these things need to be inspected very regularly. I know it's an issue we all have with the RV industry, that we feel like this should all be built better, but the reality is these things are huge. They bounce up and down the road. We don't want to pay $500,000 for them. So the way they're built is the way they're built, and we do need to upkeep them. And pro tip, when you inspect those seals, especially on the roof, write it down, the date that you did it. Take some photos and video, because if you look at your warranty, often your warranty will say, if you didn't inspect your seals every 3 months, they're not warranted. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong with the RV industry, but it is the case, right? So take the time to inspect those seals. Don't use a power washer on them. And if you see any of it pulled away at all, if you see anything missing, you see anything loose, get the right type of sealant, pull the old stuff off and fix it. And be careful about washing your RV in extreme temperatures. So imagine you're washing your RV, even 85 degrees, not an extreme temperature by any means, but 85 degrees, and the vinyl graphics are in the direct sun. That surface temperature could get really hot. It could be 100 degrees. Then you hit that with really cold water. You're shocking the surface, and that can expand and contract the vinyl graphic very quickly, and that can cause micro cracks that in the future are going to show up. So it's best, if you can, to wash it, 70 degrees in the shade. But just be careful, put your awning out. Let the bucket of water sit out in the sun for a while to warm up, stuff like that, just to avoid extreme temperature changes that could cause shrinking and expansion of that graphic. Okay, so before we get to talking about protecting the finish of your RV, let's talk about dealing with some of the more difficult to get rid of stuff. First of all, black streaks. This RV is a few months old. Here we got them already. Right? Actually, it's pretty common to have them right away, because these ones in particular here come from the seals of the RV, and it's totally normal. It's keeping stuff out. That's great. You want a tight seal. But black streaks don't just refer to that. You might see this over here. I don't know how well you can see that, but you can see this is darkening here. There's like drip marks that are sort of darkening. That's pretty common to get that kind of stuff, especially around anywhere there's rubber. First of all, try to remove that with a sponge or a cloth, but again, nothing abrasive. But if you have a problem getting it off, don't use any sort of solvent. You do not want to use a solvent on the outside of your rig. You can get something like this. This is a Camco branded product. It's a black streak remover. It's specifically for removing black streaks on RVs. And we can all decry the fact that we don't want to buy so many RV specific things. It's like weddings, right? Why is everything so much more expensive when it's made for weddings? But this is really good stuff, actually. What you do is you wet this stuff down, and then you spray this stuff on it, and you let it sit for 30 seconds, and then it starts to come right off. And then, of course, you want to rinse that down and follow the instructions. As I always say, follow the instructions on everything, but follow the instructions on the black streak remover. Don't use it on the stuff that you shouldn't use it on. Next thing that's hard to get rid of, bugs. Lots and lots of bugs. And that's the bane of all of our existence. If you own a fifth wheel in particular, you get a front cap full of bugs. Couple tips about removing bugs. They're the hardest to remove when they're dry. They splatted on you going down the road, and they dried up, and it's like cement on there. So what you want to do is rehydrate them. And you can do that by, spraying it down with water or something like that. I saw a guy once at a campground that just blew my mind. When it was raining outside, he took the opportunity to go and wash the bugs off of his RV because the rain was rehydrating the bugs. What I like to do is take a towel. I always have a bunch of yuck towels with us. We use them for all kinds of things. We use them inside the front door when it's muddy and we have lots of shoes to take off. We use them to wipe down the sides of the slides when it was raining before we pulled the slides in, all sorts of stuff like that. What I like to do though is take a towel, soak it completely, and then just slap it on there and let it sit over the bugs for a while. And then they just slide right off. It's super easy. They just wipe right off. Okay, so what about washing the roof? Well, the roof is one place where you usually can get away with using a brush, and probably need to. I'm going up the ladder here. By the way, I love these new ladders. A lot of people hate the fact that RVs don't come with ladders anymore built into them. Instead, they have these these sort of Lippert cleats up here often, and then you have to buy one of these ladders extra. I've always carried this type of ladder with me anyway, because I like going up at an angle. And I like that I can take this ladder anywhere around the RV. I don't actually have to stand or walk on the roof. If you don't have a walkable roof, or if you're nervous about getting that high, you don't like walking around up there, there's snow up there, whatever, you can take this ladder around the RV and you just get to this height and you can reach everything if you just keep moving the ladder around. But I'm going all the way up. All right, as you can see, yeah, this is a brand new RV, so this roof is very clean. Again, you do need to get up on the roof and inspect all of those sealants every 3 months or so and make sure that they're all intact. Nothing's lifting up or anything. Everything is sealed everywhere. Probably best to do it on a brand new RV as well. So every 3 months, take the time to come up here, wash the roof off, and inspect those sealants. You can get all kinds of crap up here, especially if you're parked under trees a lot. I've got lots of solar panels, so I come up here often to wipe them down. They clearly need to be cleaned right now. We're in Utah. We're getting lots of dust, and wiping the solar panels down brings in more sun. But you can get up here with a hose long enough, get a very small bucket that you can easily carry up the ladder that has some very concentrated soap and water in it. That way you're not hauling up a 5-gallon bucket of water. And then use a brush on a stick to clean off the roof of your RV. There are some sort of brush on a stick products that have like a detergent dispenser in them and a hose attaches to them and the water sprays out of them. Those work great for something like this. Just be very careful about using a brush like that on the graphics of your RV. Again, different surfaces, different cleaning needs. Don't forget the tops of your slides as well. And look, cleaning your RV is maintenance. Cleaning it allows it to function longer. Cleaning it keeps gunk out of all the slide mechanisms. It keeps sap from gooping up into anything. We're out in nature camping. There's pollen, there's dust, there's dirt, there's grime, there's all sorts of ick. And keeping your RV washed is going to keep it lasting much longer. All right, let's talk about protecting the finish of your RV. Should you wax it? Well, I tell you, that little sheet of paper from the company that makes the vinyl graphics says not to wax them. But some RV brands will say, yeah, absolutely, you should wax your RV every 3 months or so. And really, for the gel coat, wax can help. It's not necessary though, but it can make everything last longer if you use the right stuff and if you do it right. So what you want to use if you're going to wax your RV, particularly the graphics, is a synthetic polymer wax. So these are the sort of new type of waxes that are out there. If you use an old traditional wax, often they're going to have some solvents in them that are going to cause problems for your graphics. Some people that have major oxidation on the outside of their RV, it's not because they didn't wax, it's because they did wax. So you do want to be really careful with this. And I see people recommending lots of different products and they'll swear by them and say they work. And that's fine, and maybe it has worked for you. Maybe the particular vinyl that you have is holding up to it and all that sort of stuff. Maybe it's just that you're keeping it so clean. But definitely, if you wax your RV, use one of those synthetic polymer waxes. Don't use the wax that comes in the spray gun at the car wash. I do use that for one thing, though. I do spray my undercarriage with the wax from the car wash. It doesn't work on a car. Don't even use it on a car. But it's great for undercarriages because it does help protect them, especially if you camp near the beach a lot and you get a lot of salt spray, stuff like that. So if you do wax your RV, use one of those synthetic polymer waxes, gently buff it, and these graphics will stay nice for longer than their projected lifespan. One more product that I want to mention is this BoShield T9 stuff. This is great. This is a waterproof lubricant. It also can be used to clean stuff, kind of like you would use WD-40, but way better than that. It's great to protect slide mechanisms, screw jacks, anything that's got metal that's exposed to the elements, your springs, anything that's not like powder coated. It lasts for months. It creates sort of a seal on those tough to protect items. It's okay if some stuff underneath your RV gets a little rust colored from some oxidation. It's normal. It's probably going to come from the factory that way, but BoShield T9 does a really good job of protecting any of those sorts of elements on the underside of your RV. If you do have oxidation on your RV, waxing is not going to fix it, okay? The only thing you can do is buff it out. And there are products out there for buffing out oxidation for gel coat. And I'll link to one of them in the description. Not a sponsor. I have no experience using it, but it exists for that reason. So that's what I know about keeping your RV clean. I'd love to know any tips that you have. And please remember the sponsor of today's video, eTrailer.com. eTrailer.com sells a lot of products for cleaning your RV. You can get all sorts of wands, brushes, sponges, waxes, and washes over at eTrailer.com. So check them out. They are a great supporter of the RV YouTube community, and they sell great products. Thanks a lot for being here, everybody. Hit the like button if you got something on this video. Subscribe if you want more like it. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.